Today, in Lessons with Miss D, we're going to be talking about central message. So the central message is the big idea or the lesson that the story teaches. You can find the central message by looking at the main character's actions, thoughts, and feelings. Remember last week when we were comparing and contrasting two stories and we were talking about fables and how fables have a lesson or a moral? That's the same idea. It's really easy to find the central message in a fable. But it's harder to find it in a regular story. So then you really have to look at the character's actions and thoughts and feelings and really the main character. So let's think about some central messages. So the first picture we have right here is the boy who cried wolf. And think about what happens in that story. You have the boy and he's tending the sheep. And he gets bored, so he cries, "Wolf, wolf, help me, there's a wolf." And so everyone comes, and there's no wolf. So they go back and they tell him, you can't do that. It's not good to say that there's a wolf and get everyone to come. So he's out with the sheep again, and again he yells, "Wolf, wolf, wolf," and everyone comes and runs. And again, there's no wolf. So they go back and they're mad. And then a wolf actually comes to where the sheep are, and he yells, "Wolf, wolf, wolf, help me, wolf." But because he'd said it so many times before, and there hadn't been a wolf, the people didn't come, and the wolf ate all the sheep. If you look at the boy's behavior, then you can see that the central message of the boy who cried wolf was, if you tell people lies, they won't believe you. They're going to stop believing you. So that's the message or the lesson that he would be learning. Another one we can look at is over here, the tortoise and the hare. And the tortoise and the hare fable, talks about the fact that, the tortoise and the hare are going to race, and the hare, which is a rabbit, knows that he's going to win because he's so much faster than the tortoise that he does silly things like takes a nap, goes and gets some food, and he doesn't really take the race seriously because he knows he can win. He knows he's faster than the tortoise, and the tortoise just keeps going and going and going. And then the tortoise ends up winning because the hare wasn't bothered by it. He didn't even notice that the tortoise was getting close to the finish line. He thought he had all the time in the world. So the lesson there for that fable would be slow and steady wins a race. So now that we've talked about the central message of a fable, we're going to look at how you find the central message of a story. And the big idea is to use key details and events of a story to figure out the central message or lesson that the author wants to share with readers. Many stories have a central message or lesson the author wants to share. The story teaches a lesson through the characters, the events that happen, and what the characters learn. As you read, looking for the key details will help you find the central message and understand what you read. So what that's saying is you need to think about who the main character is and what happens, the actions, the events that happen to the main character, and what the characters learn. And that's where you'll get the central message. And the way we find that is by looking at the key details. So let's look at this cartoon and think about the lesson the boy learns by the end. So you see in the first picture, he says, "Don't let go of me." As he's riding, he's on his bike. It looks like it's probably the first time he's riding his bike without training wheels, and his mom's holding on to him. And then he's still looking nervous, and his mom lets go. And then he realizes she lets go and realizes that he's riding by himself, and he says, "I can do it." So let's think about the events of the cartoon that tell about a problem the boy has and what he does. Complete the chart by adding the key details. Use those details to figure out the central message of the cartoon. So we want to think about what happened in that first picture. And that key detail would be the boy is scared to ride his bike alone. Then in the next picture, you see that the mom lets go of the bike. And in the last picture, the boy realizes he can ride by himself. So if we take these three details, that he's scared to ride his bike alone, his mom lets go of him, and then he realizes he can ride by himself, what lesson does the boy learn? Or what lesson is the story trying to teach you? And it's you can be brave and do new things. That would be one of the lessons. You could also say, you can do more than you think you can. So at first he thought he couldn't do it, and then he realized he could. So that is how we would find the central message. Remember, a central message is not the topic. It's not the same thing as the topic of the story. The topic is that he's learning how to ride his bike. The central message is what lesson is someone learning from the story. So remember that it's not the topic of the story. All right, so let's look at another story. And this is The Girl and the Apples by Tala Rachel. One fall afternoon, a girl went to a park to pick apples. She was in a hurry, so she picked carelessly both ripe apples and unripe ones. Remember, ripe apples are ones that are good for eating, and unripe ones are not good. So it's probably not a good idea to pick those ones. You want to just pick ripe ones, but she was in such a hurry, she wasn't even paying attention. When she finished, her wagon was filled with a small mountain of apples. The girl asked the farmer, "Quick, tell me how long you think it will take me to get back home." And you can see she's still in a hurry. She's like, "Quick, tell me now." A little rude. The farmer thought carefully. Then he said, "Be patient. If you go slowly, you will be back soon. If you go fast, you will not get back until night. It's your choice." The girl thought, how can that be? How can it take so long if I go fast? What does the farmer mean when he says, if you go slowly, you'll get back home soon, but if you go fast, you'll not get back until the night? I'm not sure. Maybe by the end we'll know what the farmer meant, because the girl doesn't understand either. The girl wanted to get back home as soon as possible, so she rushed her horse and wagon on the road. She made her horse walk very fast. So she's going fast. She decided she was going to go fast. Let's see if the farmer's right. And suddenly, bump, off fell some apples. Every time she hit a bump, more apples rolled off her wagon. Then she had to stop and put them back in the wagon because of all of the delays. So delays means stopping and starting and having to wait. It was night before she got home. So the farmer was right. She went fast, and because she went fast, the apples kept falling out, and because the apples fell out, she'd have to stop, and she'd have to pick up the apples, and she'd have to put them back in, and then she would go fast again, and she'd have to stop and pick up the apples because they'd fall out and put them back in. So I guess that's what the farmer must have meant when he said, if you go fast, it's going to take longer to get home. But if she had gone slowly, why would that have made her get home faster? So I think that if she'd gone slowly, the apples wouldn't have fallen out. She wouldn't have had to keep stopping. So she wouldn't have had all those delays. So if she had gone slowly and carefully, she could have just gone home without having to stop. And the stopping took a long time. She has to stop the horse, get down, find all the apples, put them back. So let's think about this chart and write some key details about what the characters say and do, and then we'll find the central message or the lesson. So think about things that the girl does in the very beginning. In the very beginning, the girl picks ripe and unripe apples because she's in a hurry. And that's important because she keeps hurrying and hurrying. And then when she's done, she asks the farmer how to get home, and the farmer tells her if she goes slowly, she will get home faster. But she doesn't believe that, does she? She doesn't understand. And so she goes fast and drops apples, so it takes a long time to get home. So looking at these key details, she's in a hurry, the farmer tells her to go slowly, and she'll get home faster, and she goes fast and drops all the apples and takes her a long time to get home. So what lesson is the author trying to teach us? What is the central message? So the central message would be, you need to go slowly and take your time. It takes longer if you rush because you've got to keep doing it over again. So that's what the central message of that story was telling you. At least that's one of the central messages. So a lot of times there's more than one central message in a story. So that's definitely one of them, that you need to go slowly and take your time, and it takes longer if you rush. But what is another lesson the girl might learn from what happened? So think about that. Think another lesson that she could have learned from that. Yep, another lesson the girl might learn is to listen to other people's advice. The girl should have listened to the farmer, because if the girl had listened to the farmer, then she would have gone slowly and taken her time and been careful, and she would have gotten home faster. And that would have been a better idea than what she did. So stories sometimes have more than one central message, but you just need to remember, central message is what lesson is this story teaching you? And you need to think about the main character and what lesson that main character needs to learn by the end. And you find that by looking at that character's actions and events that happen around the character. And that way you can tell what lesson they needed to have learned. Now you can find the central message in stories that you've read. So that's it for this lesson with Miss D.